Hey, good evening, guys. Look, thanks very much for joining us. We've got quite a few people in the room. We've got quite a few people online as well. Um, so today I wanted to talk to you about the PowerApps component framework and what it actually means for you guys. I'm actually really excited about this technology. It's exactly what we've been after for a very long time. In particular, us Dynamics guys. Um, so today, what I'd like to talk about is a bit of a background on why PCF, what it means for us, what opportunities are there for us, some examples of cool things that people are doing today, and I'll quickly walk you through how to build, package, and deploy your PCF control. Before I get into that, could I get a show of hands? Who's ever written any JavaScript? Right, cool, perfect. So this is great, right? So you've got some of the prerequisites already to build PCFs. So that's fantastic. This is going to be perfect today. Um, so a little bit of a background. We've all wanted to change the ways our forms look and feel. I mean, who's happy with what's available out of the box in Dynamics 365? I feel we could always do better. We could always change the look and feel to really meet our customers where they need to be. Previously, if we had to change anything in Java on the form, say an attribute or a field, we'd have to write some JavaScript, or we'd have to use some web resources, and that's got some problems around that. I mean, it's potentially unsupported. You're going in there, you're changing things up on the DOM, and if there's an update that gets pushed through from Microsoft, you're going to have a really bad day. And the other thing, it's not modular is not generic, and it's not reusable. So it's pretty specific to just that form, right? You can't really use it over and over again. And it doesn't work across all app types. Previously, it was only available on model-driven apps. So we need a unified way, and so that Microsoft have decided, look, there is a better way, and that is PCF. And I hope you like the font there. So introducing the PowerApps component framework, or a new hope for us. It lets us build reusable components that can be deployed across both model and, in the future, canvas apps. So you build one control, deploy across any sort of application. And there's a robust tool set for building these components and controls. And this is known as the command line interface, the PowerApps component framework command line interface. What's really cool about this is it lets you build, test your components in near real time, and it dramatically improves your workflow. So you don't actually have to deploy your control. You can see it. You can see it being built up. And then there's the packaging that is completely taken care of by the CLI as well. You build it, you can build it and package it as a solution file and deploy it into any environment. Now, one of the most important things that's come out of this is the ability to use modern web design patterns. So if you're a front-end developer, this is going to be perfect, right? It's based around TypeScript 2. You can use frameworks such as React, Angular, and in the future, Office Fabric as well, to get that really nice Office look and feel. So let's talk about the implications, what this means for us in the future. There's going to be new opportunities, like we talked about, to meet customers where we need to be, right, to meet their needs. And there's also an opportunity for partners and independent software vendors to build and sell their own components, and hopefully the marketplace will allow us to publish our own components in the future. So think of a Telerik situation where they have controls for web front ends, we could potentially have a gallery, and I'll talk to you about where you can publish some of these things today, around these new components. And the other thing is you can have better devices. So that means you can have it on your web, your tablet, or your phone, right? Reusability, we talked about that. Build once and just reuse over and over again. And lastly, as the look back guy is saying here, you could pretty much do away with web resources completely, right? Whatever you could do with web resources, you could probably do via PCF controls. So that's a huge game changer in Dynamics and in PowerApps. So what I want to show you is something that I built out, and I've got this up on GitHub, so you can download the code and have a play with it. So I'm just started the animation. Ben, can you see that at the moment?
Yes. Yep.
Right. Okay. So what I've done is I've built a control out that replaces a single integer field. So it basically takes an integer field here and then it renders a green bar. Right. Pretty simple stuff. And this is all done using PCF. So I think that works quite well, and that was done, with relatively few lines of code there. Next, this is someone who obviously knows what they're doing. We've got AK from Datacom, who's done something really clever around the connection data set. So we all use connections with accounts and contacts and that sort of stuff. Look what it's done here. It's actually used the power of PCF to model these relationships, right? I just think that looks absolutely fabulous. And he's also got his code up on GitHub too. Next, we've got Jose, who's built something around a credit card control. Next, I'll move on to Manny, our mate Manny, who's built something around data sets. So you can use entire data sets here, and is displaying it as a card. Now, I really like that look and feel. I think it looks fantastic too. So previously, you'd have to use a web resource, obviously, to do that with a few queries, but it's a lot easier. And I'm going to show you exactly how you can build your own PCF control. So let's talk about how do we get started. What are some of the things that we need to know? So you've already got, I assume, HTML, but you've also coded in JavaScript as well. Now, you will need to know TypeScript because that is the default language for building PCF. I myself have only picked up TypeScript in the last 4 weeks, so I am completely new to it. So I recommend going to EDX if you haven't done TypeScript coding before. TypeScript's really good, especially if you've got a C# or a Java development background, because everything is strongly typed and it transcompilates into JavaScript that's renderable on any browser. And that's the key to this all. This is how it works across all sorts of devices. Next, you're going to need a computer, obviously, with the following things installed: Node.js or NPM, Visual Studio 2017 or later, or Visual Studio Code. And finally, you'll need to install the PowerApps CLI, the command line interface. All of those instructions are on the URL below. Right. So what I'm going to do now is walk you through how to build your own control. Now, I'm not going to go really deep on this, and you can find this information later. But I'll just give you what the things that I probably think I should have known when I first started building PCF, right? So hopefully this will get you started. So what I've got here is a control that pulses, and I had a salesperson scenario in mind when I built this control. I wanted them not to miss out on a particular message, and I wanted that message to pulse, so it was right there in front of him. So when you first build your control, this is what a control looks like. This is the folder structure that you'll see when you open up Visual Studio. So you're going to have, starting at the top, you've got your style sheet. That controls the look and feel and the behavior of your control. Next, you've got a preview image. This is optional, but this will tell your your customizers what this control actually does. Next, you've got the manifest. And like a manifest, when you're going on an ocean liner, these are the things that you've brought on. This is your luggage. These are the parts that make up your control, and this is everything you need to know about your control. Next, you've got the TypeScript file, the control itself. So I'll walk you through each of those things, starting with the manifest. So at the top, we need to give our control a name. So I've given it a namespace. I've called it controls Andrew Lee, with some information around what it actually does, a display name, a description, and so on. Pretty simple stuff. Next, we have input fields, and these are the fields that you can use to bind your control. So you saw in that example before, I created a string field. I've given it a property name of notification message. So this is actually the text that I want to be displayed. And finally, we've got the resources that we need to embed. So I've got the code file, I've got the CSS, you can have translation files, images, and so on. So that's a manifest file. That's what a manifest file looks like. Next, you've got the control file. So within here, you've got your initialization class. And now, if you know a bit of HTML, of what this is comprised of, what my control is comprised of, is an outer div, which wraps an inner div. That's actually the blue box. And next, I've got a text or an anchor link, and that's actually the text that you see there. This is a notification message that pulses. That's the actual text. Okay. And this could be made up of any sort of HTML element you like. So this come back to front-end development again. Now, we wanted to do something when we changed that value. So when I change it from one message to another, I wanted to refresh. I want to actually get that value, and I want to set that value. So first of all, I get that value from that bound field. So the first line of code there says this value is equal to context parameters notification message. Remember, that's what we defined within our manifest. And I set that value right there in point number 3. And that's where I set it to the anchor link. And that's it. That's my control, right? It's pretty simple, right? There's nothing much more than that other than a bit of styling. So this is what the styling looks like. This is my CSS file, and I've sort of broken it up. I gave that that box a CSS class, and it was called animated pulse. And you can see this is what it does. It pulses every 1.8 seconds, and it grows to about 100% of its size, right? And then it repeats itself. It's on an infinite loop. That's all from a styling perspective. So now we've got everything we need. How do we actually package it and deploy it? That's really simple. You open up Visual Studio development command prompt, and you put in the following command. Now, this is all documented on Microsoft's website. So pack solution, add reference, and then the path to your actual control on your C drive or whatever. And that actually packages it up. Next, we need to generate that zip file. This is a zip file that you just import directly into CRM, as you would any other solution, right? We've probably done it 100 times now. So just 2 commands, msbuild /t restore and msbuild, and that actually generates that zip, and it drops it into a I think it's a bin folder or a debug folder. So you import that. So okay, so now I've shown you how to build a control, how to package it as a zip file and import it into CRM. Next, how do we actually use a control? So to use a control is really simple. We go into the form designer, then we select the properties of the field that we want to actually put that control on. Next, we click on the controls tab, and it'll give you a list of all of the controls that are compatible with that particular type. So initially within our manifest, we said this is a control that works on strings or text, right? And then you'll see that it's actually popped up on my custom control, and it says notification pulsing. That was also the name that I gave within the manifest. So I click add, right? That's the control we're going to use. And next, I specify I want it to run on the web, the phone, and the tablet. I could have different controls for different devices if I wanted to, right? So this is the flexibility of the PCF. So with all that in place, this is what it looks like when it's actually deployed and published onto your model app. Right, and so that's the refresh that we saw. It actually picked up that bound field, and then it set the that anchor element. Right. So what I want to do now is just wrap up a little bit in terms of where you can go get some more information around this. Now, the PowerApps community forums is a fantastic place. The program manager there, Hemant Gaur from Microsoft, who heads up the PCF team, he's been fantastic. He's very, very responsive. So if you have any issues, or if you're a complete noob to this like I am, he'll get on there, and then he'll be very quick in terms of his response. And then secondly, we've got Guido, who he probably needs no introduction. He's done a lot of work around the dynamic space. Guido is actually online with us today, and he's started up a PCF gallery. Guido, do you want to just come off mute and say hi, mate?
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you, Andrew, for the shout out. Yeah, I think that this PCF technology is a brilliant change for Dynamics developers. So what I wanted to do is to create this site that is called the PCF Gallery, where community developers can submit their components they created. Of course, the one that created by Andrew are listed there, but we have also many other developers. So if you plan to create one new control and you want to get it published, just contact me, and I would be happy to publish on my site. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Guido. And I think Guido's dialing in from China today. So thanks very much for joining us. And yeah, so that's it. That's what I want to walk you through today, guys. And I might just mention one other thing while I've got you as well. We've got the Dynamics and PowerApps User Group Summit Australia that's happening for the very first time in Australia this year. And that's occurring on the last week of August in Melbourne. There'll be 200 plus presentations from experts and partners within the industry. And it's going to be a really fantastic event. So check it out. I think it's australiasummit.com. You can get more information about that. So yeah, look, thanks for bearing with me. And yeah, I'll flick it back over to you, Ben.
No worries. Thanks for that, Andrew. Appreciate it. It was a good presentation. Thank you.
Okay, hi, I'm William, by the way. I work in DXE, but met you guys last month as well around FinOps. So I'd like to introduce more FinOps in these sessions. So I see some people that I know, so no heckling. So today I'm going to present around dual write. So I don't know if anybody knows what dual write is, but dual write is near real-time bi-directional integration, FinOps and CE. So some of you might know a couple of years ago, Data Integrator was released, and that was more on a schedule basis. This is real-time. So I've got a demo, so not that many slides. It's frictionless setup. By that I mean it's quite easy. It's only a few steps as opposed to previously where you had to actually do a lot of configurations and do scheduling and deal with the intricacies like if something fails, what do I do with the next execution? This is semi-real time. And when I say semi, it's a few seconds. And it's embedded within FinOps, so it's actually FinOps that's driving it. The back end is still PowerApps or CDS engineering back end. Okay. You've got the opportunity to do some filters. You've got out-of-the-box entities that are going to be available. You can set up your own custom entities. You can customize the existing ones. You can also create new ones and do the formatting Okay. So that kind of summarises the previous slide. I'll just give you a chance to read, but yeah, near real-time, out-of-the-box for FinOps, experience simplified and intuitive interface, custom or standard, okay, filters, and basic transformations. And before I get into the demo, I just want to highlight a couple of links. The announcement that was made, there's some really good information on that first link. And you'll see a link to how to get it set up. There's some cautionary points there that it is still preview, it hasn't been released yet. Okay. And the last one, or second link, is the April release notes. It's got some explanation around as to why they actually are going down this path. Let's get straight into the demo. Okay. So once you've got it set up and turned on, you should see a new tile within FinOps. This is FinOps, by the way, for those that haven't seen it before. Well, when I say FinOps, it's finance and operations. If you go to the data management workspace, there's a link to CDS for apps. And what you'll notice is that it's actually embedded the PowerApps integration tool inside FinOps. The engine is pretty much the PowerApps integration tool. Okay, that's the first thing that you'll be presented with first time, and it's literally a couple of steps to get this set up. So link the environments. It'll give you an option to select your CE environment. Next one gives you an option to select your FinOps legal entity. So FinOps has, it's a multi-company environment. CE is single company, so think about it, you have to switch companies to actually do your transactions. So it lets you select it. You can do multiple, but in this current preview one, it's only one connection. So I won't do that because I've got one that I prepared earlier. Okay. Once you've established the link, you'll be given this page with the entities. So by default, in the preview, they've only set up and configured the one entity, which is the custom integration. So customer from FinOps to accounts in CE, accounts of type customer. So things that you can do in here is you can start and stop it, firstly. You click on that link, you'll see the error logs, if there's any errors. I haven't had any errors. Click on the three dots there and hit the entity menu. Some of you that have used the data integrator previously, it's pretty much the same thing, but I'll take you through it. You've got sales, or CE sales on the left-hand side. You've got finance or operations on the right-hand side. The right-hand side, it's the data entity that's within FinOps. Okay, filters at the top. So in here you can see that it's filtering on customer type code equals 3. And on the FinOps side of things, it's filtering on party type organization. Now, what can you do down here is it's better, the icons are better than the data integrator. The icons actually show you what's happening. So the equal sign is just a bi-directional integration. So if you click on that, you'll see pane slide out, telling you that it's a bi-directional integration and there's no transformation, there's nothing special done here. Okay, credit limit equals to credit limit on the other side. Okay, this one, can't even explain the icon. 2 triangles. The bi-directional, it's bi-directional, so it's going both ways, as the arrow indicates, but there is some transformation in it. By this, I mean that it'll default on both sides USD. So if it's empty, it'll just fill in USD on both sides. There's a couple more. Okay, you'll see this one. It's bidirectional, but it's doing value mapping this time. So you've got options to truncate, you've got option to default, and you've got value mapping. So CE is a bit more looser in terms of, I don't want to insult CE people, but yeah, it'll accept some certain values, whereas FinOps is a bit more restrictive. You know, it has to be, you know, if it's not available on the lookup in the related table in the foreign key, it's not going to let you. So in this case, you can see the United States mapped 4 times or transformed 4 times. Okay. The other option you've got is it's telling you the direction. Is it it's slow on this screen. It's giving you options CDS to FinOps or FinOps to CDS, and that is, if I can give you some examples here, is you'll see that there is only a single direction mapping here from FinOps to CE. So CE, we're going to default the customer type code to 3, which is customers, I believe. And then same thing goes with the custom group. So FinOps requires the custom group to be set to post any financials, so that's where all the finance questions are. So we're defaulting everything to being 10. So if you wanted to do some transformation here, you can do that as well. And you can delete any mappings or do single direction mappings, as you can see some of the below ones here. No transformation, but it's just single direction. Okay, let's actually see this in action. I'm going to jump out of this and go to the FinOps side first. And what I'll do is I'll create a customer. And I'll see on the other side, and then I'll edit the customer. Open there. Okay, so what I'll do is create one. So UG-001. Okay, and then I'll select the customer group 10, 190 my street, and I'll just hit save there. It is a dev box here, so it's a little bit slow. So when I turned on the connection, it actually is a little bit slower. And the reason is because it's actually doing the integration in real time. So it's actually updating C on the other side at the same time.
So it's fault or being slow?
I'm not blaming anybody. Okay, so if I go to CE here, close out of that. Use that. There it is, UG1, user group. Okay, I'll put my phone number in there. I'll show you what that looks like. And there's my street there, and it's defaulted US in there. Okay, and I'll just hit the save button on this side. Saving.
Is it only syncing the fields that you've edited, or is it the complete record?
It's just, it's doing pretty much what the mapping is doing. So if in the mapping, if you selected 10 fields, that's all it's doing.
Yeah, okay.
Would it do all those 10 fields if you only updated one of them?
It'll only do the ones that are mapped, that's it. So it's a, how do I say, it's a patch.
So it's checking all of them each time. So even if you updated another field programmatically, and it was one of those that's in that relationship, it would sync that one as well. It would.
Have you got auditing turned on this? Your auditing turned on in this in CE here. What about on the other side?
We don't have auditing in that sense. We've got
Oh, okay.
The C wouldn't be updated.
database logs, but again, that's completely different.
Yeah, I was thinking if you did one record here, one field here.
So let me just,
Some auditing this, or vice versa. Go back in there. Yeah.
so again, all I do is just hit the refresh button there. And there's the phone number modified. Okay. It does create and updates, but it does not do deletes. So if I delete this one, it won't be deleted on the other side. But if I go create this using the same ID, it will update again, synchronize.
Yeah, if there's validation on the other side, say, look, that US, for example, doesn't exist on CM.
Yeah.
I don't know why you're putting that in, for example. Would that error message that gets thrown up on CS side, would that stay here? Would it just fail here? Would it just carry on like nothing?
In last month's version, it did.
Yeah.
In this month's version, it's actually shown in the data management where I showed when you clicked on the blue link.
Okay.
It actually showed the activities, so
Yeah.
it had all those errors kind of swallowed up.
So as a user on, I guess either side, you wouldn't see an issue pop up there and then, or?
It did last month.
Yeah, okay.
This month it seems to be a bit more graceful.
Yeah.
So it's preview release. So again, this is not final release, it's preview.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the direction is going to be at the end of the day.
So Mani, does these entries that you are synchronizing, do they come up on the data management side on the FinOps?
It's pretty much calling everything. So any change tracking, anything like that, it will trigger all those things. So one of the big concerns that I've got in my back of my head is performance, because in, let's say in FinOps you go and update a whole bunch, 10,000 records once. 10,000 records are going to go to the other side, to the CE side, and I don't know how, if they're going to time out or if they're going to.
You got no control to make it asynchronous.
If you want to do asynchronous, you can go back to the data integrator approach,
Yeah, okay.
which I can show.
No.
But this whole thing is supposed to be synchronous, semi-real time, or real time.
Dual
I guess the idea is maybe you're not going to do it on heavy transactional data, you're going to do it on just basic referential stuff which doesn't change at all.
And the beautiful thing about this thing is it solves the whole bidirectional thing. Whereas with the data integrator, you couldn't actually do a bidirectional integration. They were recommending that you lock out one side.
Sure.
So if you had like a calculated field in F&O, say current account balance,
Yeah.
and that's programmatically updated as the customer buys more stuff, and that's one of the fields in your sync, would it pick that up because it's being updated in the database but not on the form?
No, because it's not really a change that's happening on the record. I shouldn't say that because there's ways of doing it, but no, it will not be updating like that.
Okay.
Because that field doesn't exist in the database, so you couldn't have a change tracking on that field.
Correct.
So I guess you'd
Well, unless you had a roll-up field, that's what I'm saying. You can have a roll-up field in a database that also.
but in finance and operations, the roll-up fields aren't saved as physically in the database. It's calculated on the fly. I know for CE it's different.
Yeah. Okay. Right, that's. Yeah. Okay.
So any additional field integration, we have to change the data entities on both the sides, CE as well as FinOps.
CE exposes entities anyways by default. FinOps, yes, you do have to go into the data entity and add the extra field that's there.
licensing.
Don't ask.
So obviously you're indirectly creating an account. Let's say we're doing invoices in the future. You'd be up for a sales license on CE side if we're touching invoices, and I would assume we have a rule on our side that if you somehow indirectly cause an invoice to be created, you're still up for a sales license. So would that mean, say, I guess if you've got FinOps, you probably have the whole plan. So it might be covered anyway.
If you've got FinOps, you're paying a lot more.
Yeah.
So FinOps still has task and enterprise licenses.
Yeah.
It's been flattened out a little bit better. There's not that functional thing isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
But task doesn't really let you do too much. If you want to create sales orders, if you want to create any of these things, if you want to create customers, you are jumping off to enterprise and you're already paying a few $1,000s.
Yep.
One of the big limitations I saw with the integrator was that you could only use a few of their little templated integrations, right? You just do this procure to cash and you start with the field service. What's it at now? Can we have our own entities and link it up?
So with a data integrator, you could do it, but you're in for a lot of pain to do it because of the scheduling, and you have to get the timings right, and you have to get the sequencing right. And that's what the templates kind of gave you advice on.
Yeah.
You know? With this one, you can pretty much do any entity. All it is have primary key on one side, make sure the primary key on the other side maps. So if it's a string field, you get a string field here, and they map. And that's what it was doing with the account ID there that you saw. So if you wanted to change the primary key, you just have to go and change the primary key, not on the table in the FinOps side of things, but just on the data entity.
And with the integrator 2 I know before, to get that running, you have to actually provision a CDS environment.
Still
And link in the middle. This, you don't have to explicitly be doing that now?
Yeah, you don't, because CE already is based on CDS.
Totally, yeah.
So what the good thing about this is when you hit those links,
Yes.
which is my next part of my demo.
Giving you a segue.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the front end. Let's kind of have a look at what actually happens in the back end. Some of you might be familiar with the data integrator here, admin.powerapps.com. Okay. I won't talk about data integrator just yet, but I'll explain that in a second. This last one that you see here was actually created by me clicking that link button inside FinOps. Previously, you had to come into this page, you have to go there, you have to go there, whereas now you're doing it all in FinOps. Now it's created the project in here. So if I drill down to that last one, you'll see the exact same thing. So that connection set that I created earlier, it's here. The tasks that I've created with the mappings are here. The icons are different. Some of the functionality is slightly different, but generally it's pretty much the same thing. Everything's been stored here. Execution, not history, but scheduling. Obviously, because it's real time, it's set to manual by default. Because FinOps and CE are taking care of it, or CDS is taking care of it automatically. Okay, so that's one more thing that I wanted to show you. So that's the dual write concept and what dual write does and what it simplifies. You know, this technology has existed, but it's just been automated. Now, Data Integrator, for those that don't know, Data Integrator got released a couple of years ago. It was essentially living here in PowerApps Admin Center in the data integrations. And what you had to do is create a new project. So I'll just do that now quickly, because I want to kind of share what's new here on this side. This was previously what was given out. So the one that you were talking about around templates. So these were the predefined templates that Microsoft supported. Okay. And anytime there was a change, it was kind of clunky. It's like, okay, wipe everything and reapply the new template. So if you had you upgraded a version, platform update. Oh, that entity is obsolete now. There's a version 3. Those kind of things you have to keep up with. Whereas now with this one, it's not so much. You don't have to keep up with them. It's kind of being taken care of in the back end within FinOps. So I won't create one because it'll ask me for a connection setting. But I've got one here that I created for within here, within the PowerApps Admin Center. I did the exact same thing, but what I would have had to do is set up a scheduling to run every 15 minutes. for every, that's the minimum that you should do. And all the history, and all the error logs would have been reported here in the admin center. So you can see it's a bit of jumping around between here to FinOps to CE. Okay, was a problem on this slide, corrected from the source. Now, data integrator is not dead. Okay, it's got its own life. It's actually, because there's some value to it, it still takes care of a lot of integration scenarios. What they've done here is you'll see this little icon at the top called Advanced Query. This was a recent addition. I'm not sure if anybody noticed, but there's, if I drill down into the mappings, and I click on this Advanced Query, because I've enabled it on the other button, you'll see some beautiful stuff.
Would you say dual write is really just a new front end on the integrator?
Pretty much. It's automating it. There's a FinOps code, like there's, it's in the foundational platform layer. There's quite a lot of code there.
To call and invoke
exactly,
it.
Invoke it. But essentially, everything else in the back end is the data integrator. And you might notice it's Power Query, or what they call the mashup editor. So previously, I was only able to do certain transformations. I was only able to do, USA maps to US, or those kind of things, simple things, and truncate a string and grab a subset of it and map it. That was pretty much it. Now with the power of Power Query, I can do transformations of tables. I can add calculations. I can, whatever. I'm not a Power Query guy, so anybody who's done Power Query know how rich the functionality is in terms of transformation and manipulation of data. And this might data be available in the data integrator as well, but at this stage, that interface isn't there yet. That's it.
Good.
Any questions or comments?
Have you seen any of the error logs? Like, have you poked with that at all? Is it somewhat intuitive, or is it kind of the cryptic?
I got an error telling me something URL, something.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it's not beautiful. That's as far as I've gone up, and I've tried to play around with a new one, but it's you got to understand both entities on both sides and try to map them. But it's pretty intuitive and pretty simple to create one.
2 queries probably.
What's that?
2 queries for you.
Yeah.
These all the involvements, is it driven by the tenancy and the user?
Okay. Love that question, because all that information is actually available in this blog post that announcing dual write preview. At the bottom, you'll see a link to a step-by-step document. It's pretty much a PDF doc. So just to quickly summarize, okay, on the FinOps side of things, you actually need this particular, at the moment it's a bit rough, okay, so you need that client ID put into the FinOps side of things. You use your Active Directory application to actually trust it, okay, and at the moment you have to enable it for flighting, which is just enable a preview type. You have to run an SQL string and restart that environment. That's it on the FinOps side of things. On the CD side of things, you're going to have to install Prospector Cache. Okay, available on AppSource. Once you've installed that, you're going to have to create an application user, okay, which is going to do the writing on the CD side of things, and set up this particular application ID. So the application IDs that they give us, Microsoft internal magic stuff. Previously, you had to get white labeled or white listed. So you had to actually give your tenancy to Microsoft to say that, can you please enable my company.com. But that's pretty much it in terms of the 2 sites set up. Give it the permissions to do full permissions at this stage.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, skimming through that one.
Quick with that.
So security is yeah, not 100% there.
But that wouldn't be hard to you just create and roll an account, whatever, and
Yeah, if you know what
do it.
how to restrict it, yeah, go for it. But at this stage, documentation's just full
Give
permissions.
access to MP, it does not need to be.
And yeah, it walks you through. There's some really great screenshots. All the stuff that I showed today is pretty much in here, and the example that they provided. Now, if you want to actually trial this and use this stuff, fill in the form that's actually the link that's provided here. Okay, if there's any issues, send them an email. Now, the other thing as well is there is a Yammer group for this. I mean, the FinOps people actually know about the Yammer group, but there's an insiders Yammer group that they will give you access to. And that's got a whole bunch of docs and examples and certain scenarios that, there's just a whole bunch of information in there, Q&As and problems that people have been having. I think I answered one or two questions.
So for the PowerApps admin, do you still need that because that needs advanced licensing, correct?
Yeah, so you don't essentially need it. Everything is driven from the FinOps side of things. I was kind of trying to show that it's actually data integrated at the end of the day. So that's what they're trying to reduce, is the noise of jumping around.
I've got a question. So that's using the data integrator, I guess, in the back end. Flow is probably capable of doing the same thing, but that would be asynchronous.
Be asynchronous, and also I don't think it'd be capable of volumes.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's a lot of mapping, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
things.
Okay. I was just wondering, why would you not choose Flow over this, or why would you choose this over Flow, and vice versa?
This is going to be tailored to basically they're going to have written this specifically to do the job, whereas Flow is just not.
Yeah.
Like the table person, it's not the job.
Yeah.
It'll do, but
This is more enterprise grade, whereas there'll be a fair start on that.
yeah, and also it's real-time reporting. Trying to get errors out of Flow isn't exactly straightforward in the way you monitor it.
Yeah, I mean, if you remember when they released the whole CDS thing, the whole thing was, talk to CDS, there it is, everything's open for you to do that. But how many people have actually done integration their own way, like going via service bus, going via Flow or Logic Apps or whatever custom invokes and things like that. So there's been so many different ways that have been done.
With the transformations again, just being able to do the transformations, if you have to do that in Flow, you'd have to learn a whole, and it gets very messy very quickly. It'd be interesting whether Microsoft producing like cloud costs for people when they're going in against, whether it be against Scribe, or because Scribe obviously is typically still the features about Scribe when they're going to do integrations, and data integrators will be around a couple of years. It'd be interesting when Microsoft go, well, here's the advantage of using this rather than Scribe or one of the other major, or Kingsleysoft even. I think they can Kingsleysoft connect to FinOps, I don't know.
Oh, they would cost
Yes.
something,
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I've seen it.
but I think it is.
I think this is kind of your lightweight, quick and relatively cheap to kind of plug in and get going for basic stuff. But I think if you start looking at real world scenarios where you get a little bit more complicated integrations,
So
we'd have to
let's just talk about
think
that.
about what kind of patterns you would have to design on each
Yeah.
side in order to make it fit into what this could do.
Exactly. So again, deletes are not taken care of. Composites, so header line type things are not taken care of at this stage. So there's still gaps in those areas. So I'm not too sure what they're going to do, but you hope that there's going to be a solution for it.
I think it'd be great to demo. People would just see, show, oh, that's amazing, let's just appear, and then basically, so they'll just do what they do with data integration, because they changed that quite quickly. They were talking about that quite a while ago. I mean, I've been out a couple of years, but they changed their mind because originally they were going to build all out the whole customization, the ability to build your own templates and that. When we spoke to somebody in the Logic Apps team, Microsoft, a couple of years ago, we said, oh, we're going to build the whole, we're going to customize it, build your own templates, do whatever. And then they went, oh no, I think that's too hard. I think we'll lock it down. So I've been to see what they do end up doing with it.
The great thing is, a developer adds a fields or whatever, previously it used to be, okay, now as a developer, can you do the other side of things as well, do the mappings? Now it's, okay, everything's there for me, I'll do the mapping, don't worry about it.
I guess the tricky thing they did when they did things like they did with PSA, when they changed all they created string GUIDs in the PSA and CE, and then they basically converted them into lookups and decommissioned all the string GUIDs. And unless you knew about it, it was like, oh man.
Cool.
yeah, that's. Demo.
Cool. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Questions?
Mark's me.
I'll let you go.
Is Andrew Lee still online?
I'm still on the line, man.
Alright, so does anyone have any questions for the PowerApps component framework for Andrew before he goes back to his family and have some dinner?
Andrew, do you know if you can unwrap the Microsoft ones? Can you unzip and decompile the Microsoft ones, or are they kind of locked down?
That's a good question, actually. So I do have a hold of all of the standard Microsoft controls, and I'm not sure what the plan is, whether or not they're going to publish it on GitHub. That might be a question for Hemant. So yeah, they do exist, and they are in PCF format. It's a matter of whether or not they're actually going to release it on Git. As to whether you would be better off, it might be difficult to reverse engineer what's already there, and I would say probably just hold off, wait till. I think if the demand is there, I think Hemant and his team will probably end up releasing it on GitHub, or he'll probably give it to some PCF developers to start publishing it all on their GitHubs. I know he's given me like 4 or 5 of them already that I'll probably have to work on and get converted and uploaded at some stage. So yeah, things like your default subgrids and all that sort of stuff. That's what's available.
Because they've got an awful lot of them in there, but a lot of them aren't. You can't really figure out. Last count about 25, 30, but you can't really figure out what a lot of them actually do. Where they may be quite useful, but there's very little like documentation about what the actual controls do at the moment. And obviously, if you can't download it, but even things like the entity and attributes picker, which is great, but it's kind of you get all entities, and then you can't also restrict the attributes. And I kind of thought it'd be nice to be able to pull down the base controls and actually add some functionality to allow you to limit the list of entities that it's going to show, and limit the list of attributes based on whatever you decide to do, rather than that. At the moment, it's a great feature because everybody always wants to use that if they're doing something generic, but it kind of limits you using control because you can't restrict it in any way.
100%, exactly. That's exactly why I think it would be great to have them all published on Git, so we could all just take a fork of that GitHub project and then just start extending and making it really useful. Yeah, perfect. Yep.
Actually, Andrew, I've got a question for you. That index TypeScript file that shows us there inside the package, does it have to be done with TypeScript, or can you just use plain HTML?
It's got to be done in TypeScript, and there are reasons for that. It's it's a much better language to be using. It's all strongly typed. It does give you certain things within Visual Studio. It's almost like IntelliSense as well. So you can pick up on errors before they become problems down the track. That's something you can't do with JavaScript and HTML alone. But there's no reason why. TypeScript is basically just a superset of JavaScript anyway. So there's no reason why you can just dump raw HTML in there. You can. I've seen it done. I've seen other people on their sample apps. They just pretty much just dump straight HTML into it.
Yeah, I was just thinking from a HTML designer point of view. So Visual Studio and a few other programs allow you to see what you're designing from a HTML point of view. So I was just wondering if that would be easy to take once you've designed something up through a WYSIWYG editor. Can you then just drop it into TypeScript and then pump it through the packaging that shows? Yeah,
so that's really good because that's actually one of my tips as well. I'm still one of those guys that use Dreamweaver.
I'm the same.
And I've built out my controls using HTML and CSS alone. The other thing that I use is CodePen. So if you ever go onto a site called CodePen, you just write it all up on there. You see the changes in real time. When you're happy with the look and feel of the control, start transferring it all over to your TypeScript files. And I think that's probably, I'll probably do another session. I might do it at the summit and talk about the tips and tricks, because I've got a number of tools that I've built out that make your development even more simple.
Yeah, cool. All right. No worries. Any more questions for Andrew? I think that's it.